All right. Good morning. How you all doing this beautiful 17th day of February? Hope you're well. Hope you had a good weekend. But we're really glad that you could join us. Karibuni sana. For the sake of guys who are new here, John Bogo is my name. I'm a trader with Afriforex. Afriforex is a trading unit, so it's not one-man show. We do have the rest of the team here. So in case you do have any questions, feel free to ask them on the chat box. The team will be getting back to you. If you have any requests, any comments, also feel free to put them there in the chat box. But I will also be looking at them towards the very tail end of this session. But like we always say, don't really wait until the very end. You still can ask or comment, even as we do end up progressing on. So we're going to jump straight into it. And of course, for the sake of guys who are new here, also remember to like and subscribe. That does also end up helping out our channel a lot. So we're going to jump straight into it. So we'll start off by looking at the watch list, which is where we always begin. So you can see the watch list for today. In comparison to what we had on Friday, there's only been one change. The Japanese yen was on the sell side on Friday, but today there's been quite a number of JPY news events that have come out. So I guess we will be waiting to see how that strength ends up coming in on the yen. Can't see that there's also a bunch of holidays today, in Canada and in the US. So in case we do end up seeing a lot of inactivity during that time, then at least you will be a bit more understanding. But nonetheless, you still can see a number of news events that will be coming out during the US session. So maybe hopefully we will get some movement, but in case you don't see much, then at least you should be a bit more understanding. Maybe the big boys are just on a holiday today. So we'll start off by looking at the currency pairs that we did have on Friday that unfortunately did not make it to our watch list. So we'll start off with the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one on Friday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas that I had pointed out. And in the morning, price was somewhere within this region. We're just expecting possibly just to get the price coming back in within here. Unfortunately, I guess this price was good enough for the buyers. And you can see that the market did actually start to move to the upside. But unfortunately, we just couldn't get the price breaking above this region to the upside. You can definitely see some sort of SNR within here where the sellers definitely gave the buyers issues, and you can see that the market is moving sideways. So moving into today, unfortunately, not really a currency pair. We will be trying to see whether we can get any setups today. So the next one is the euro against the Japanese yen. So for this one, on Friday, we're also trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. You can see the three areas that I had pointed out, and also a fourth level somewhere within here. We had pointed out that you might also end up finding that maybe this price could have been good enough for the buyers. And you can see that the price actually pushed itself off this region two times. So one time, this was during the Frankfurt session at around 10. You can see that during the US session also, price was higher within a seller's region during the US session open, but at around 5:30, price was back in within this area. So price was ranging within there today. It's broken to the downside, but not really a currency pair. We will be trying to see whether we can get any trades in. So the next one is the Great British Pound against the Japanese yen. So for this one on Friday, we're also trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. Can't see the three areas that I had pointed out, but I also pointed out that we were in some sort of a range between these two levels right here. And you can see that the price was fooling around within this region for quite an extended period of time. And in the morning, on Friday, price was somewhere here. We're expecting maybe a pullback back within here. That didn't happen. But I did talk about that maybe you could have attempted some buys within this region, but you did need to be careful of this area here. And you can see that the sellers within this region at the top kept on pushing the buyers back down. And of course, moving into today, you can see during the Asian session, the market has already started coming down. So I guess it's that yen strength that's starting to come in. So last but not least, we do have the New Zealand dollar against Japanese yen. So for this one on Friday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten buying opportunities as well. So you can see what the game plan was. Friday morning, price was somewhere within here. We're expecting the market to break above this region to the upside, come back in for some sort of a pullback back within this region, and hopefully get some good buying opportunities. And at least this one did end up playing out, like we expected. You can't see the breach to the upside, the pullbacks coming back in within this region. And you can't see the market moving to the upside back all the way to within this area, which is ideally where we should have been targeting, because you can't see that the sellers within that region possibly give some sort of issues, and you can't see that moving into today. They're definitely giving issues, and of course, definitely something to do with that yen strength that we're expecting to see. So I guess that's pretty much it in terms of all the currency pairs that we did have for review. Of course, it being a Monday, we don't really end up looking at the screenshots, but thank you so much for the guys who did end up sending in screenshots on Friday. We did see them on WhatsApp. And of course, remember, if you do want to send in your screenshots, still feel free to do so, but at least tomorrow we will be showcasing them during the daily analysis session. So our WhatsApp number is right there in the video description. Also feel free to send in your comments, your testimonials, your criticism, what you think we might change here and there. Also feel free to send that in to us, and we'll definitely take that into consideration. So also, in case you're struggling with your trading, also feel free to reach out to us, and we'll see how best we can end up helping you. So shifting gears into matters today. So you can see the watch list right there. So we will be mixing and matching up the sells versus the buys. So we'll start off with the Swiss franc pairs, mix and match them up with the currency pairs on the buy side, move on to the USD pairs, then finish off with the card pairs. Then, of course, wrap things up with the indices and the commodities. So the first one off the line is the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, on Friday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas right there that I had pointed out. And what the game plan was. Friday morning price was here. We're expecting the market to come back in within this region. It first went up, tapped into some SNR within that region, came back down. It's like the big boys were just not interested in this one on Friday. But if you look at what's happening today, especially during the Asian session, and you can't see that the market has really moved to the upside. So what we're expecting to see on Friday, unfortunately, seems to be happening today. So for this one, we will have to wait and see whether we can get some sort of a pullback. The game plan is still the same, because in any case, the market has not really gone far and beyond the regions that we are watching out for on Friday. So in terms of looking for buys, right now is not really the best idea. It's okay to just let the market go. I mean, if the ship sailed without you, it's fine. I mean, there will definitely be another opportunity. So we will be waiting to see whether we can get the market at least giving us some sort of a pullback. You know, we're not too sure whether the market will end up reacting from that region at the top where it is right now. But the best thing we can do is give the market and the sellers who are sitting there the benefit of doubt. So in case they do react, at least we still could get a pullback coming in. Maybe the pullback might not come in all the way to within here. Maybe it might even just come back in within this region, because it also seems like there's some sort of an SNR there. But the key thing is that we need a pullback regardless. So if we don't get the pullback coming in now, we'll just have to wait and see if we can get the market possibly breaching this region to the upside. If we get something like that high up within this area, then I think we can try and see whether we can get some buying opportunities within this region. So for this one, let's wait and see what happens. And of course, remember the red SNR, in case the pullback comes in quite deep all the way to within that region and breaks it to the downside, then unfortunately at that point in time, there will be no trade for us. So the next one, this is the euro against the Swiss franc. So for this one on Friday, we're also trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas that I had pointed out, also an illustration of what to expect. We're expecting the pullback. Price was somewhere here to either breach to the upside or possibly price coming back in within this region. And you can see that the market came down all through the London session. During the US session, the big boys were just not interested. And you can see that the market has been moving sideways within this particular region. So for this one, the levels are the same, just like we had on Friday. So also on this one, there's not been really, you know, some price movements far and beyond the regions that we're watching out for. So we'll still be waiting. You can see that the market is getting into some sort of a range within here. Sellers are definitely high up within these regions here. So we will be waiting to see whether we can get the price at least coming back in within this area here, especially if it does attempt to breach to the downside. I think that might be good, because maybe the market might need prices lower than this. Maybe also incite, you know, some sellers to actually come into the market before the market makes a turnaround and actually ends up moving to the upside. So let's see what happens on this one. But also remember, in case the market breaks and holds beneath this region to the downside, then unfortunately at that point in time, there will be no trade for us. But the good thing about it is you can see some spikes and probes within this region. So that tells us that there are definitely some buyers who are sitting there maybe just waiting for the right time to actually end up striking. So let's see what happens maybe during the London market open at 11, and also during the US session from around 4, and the New York Stock Exchange open from around 5:30. So moving on into the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Swiss franc. So for this one, also a currency pair we had on Friday. We're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. Can't see what the game plan was. There was also some SNR within here that I had pointed out that hopefully if we got the market or that level reacting and gotten the market to come to the downside, we could have looked for buys here. But you can see the market continued rallying up, tapped in within that region, came down. Unfortunately, when the market came back in within this area, the buyers were just not interested. And you can see that the market breached to the downside and actually held to the downside and continued coming down. Possibly something to do with the GBPs, because I know we're expecting to see strength on the GBPs on Friday. They didn't fully show that strength. It was kind of there, but not fully there. On some of the pairs, you will see that, like on the GBP yen, that fight that was going on. But on this one, it seems that the Swiss franc overpowered the Great British Pound. So for today, let's see if the tide is going to shift. So we're going to be watching out for these three areas right here. So right now, in terms of looking for the buying opportunities, not really the best of ideas. You can see that the market has reacted off here before. So you could easily find that during the London session, we could be on the pullback phase. Then hopefully at around 4, 5:30, if price is somewhere within this region, then at least we could try and see whether we could get some buying opportunities. Alternatively, if the market breaks above this region to the upside and we get the pullback, and we get a price action signal within here, also still watching out for the times. I think we can end up getting a very good buying opportunity at that point in time. So patience on this one is key. And also remembering, in case the market breaks and holds beneath the red SNR, then unfortunately there will be no trade for us. So the next currency pair, this is the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one on Friday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. You can't see what the game plan was. In the morning, price was here. We're expecting price to just come back in within this region. Just came shy of that area just before the US session opened, and you can see that the market rallied up, tapped within that region, came back down quite aggressively. This was during the Asian session earlier today, where it just came back in, almost tapped within this region, and you can see that the buyers have really reacted to the upside. So for this one, the levels are still the same. The reason being the market has just broken above this region to the upside. So remember, we do need to see a bit more confirmation, especially considering the fact that the market has broken and it's technically just sitting right above this support region within this area here. So hopefully, in case the sellers do end up reacting and we see a bit more of the story of what happens, especially if the price comes back in within this region, and let's say the sellers actually attempt to break to the downside, which ends up being unsuccessful, then at least at that point in time, then we can attempt to try to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. So let's see what happens on this one, but also still remembering that this region here is quite critical, especially if the market comes to the downside and holds beneath here. These sellers might actually end up having a go at pushing the market down. And that's the reason why we still do have these two other levels here, because you easily could find the market coming back in within those regions. So watch out for that. Also watch out for the times. Also remember to watch out for correlation. In case you see something happening on one currency pair, try and see whether it's something that's happening on the rest of the currency pairs. And at least that will give you a good hint of whether the big boys are actually in, and interested in that particular currency pair before you actually do end up putting your hard-earned money on it. So last but not least, on the Swiss franc pairs, we do have the Swiss franc against the Japanese yen. So for this one, this is a new entrant on our watch list. We will be watching out for selling opportunities on this one. These are the three areas that we have mapped out. Right now, the market is just coming back in. It's just come back in within a support region. Early in the morning, it was just coming down. So we had mapped out this region. It seems that the market has just tapped in within there. Let's see if we can get the market giving us some sort of a pullback. And at least, the closer we get price high up within this region here, the better. It's not a guarantee that price will come back in within there. There's also a level somewhere within this region here. But at least generally, we do need to see a pullback coming in. Right now, it seems that the buyers are starting to react. Hopefully, let's just keep our fingers crossed all through the London session if we get that pullback coming in. And during the US session, the market sets itself up properly. Maybe within this region, it also can come back in all the way to within that area there. So just make sure that you watch out for that. In case the deep pullback comes in, then at least we'll try to see whether we can get some proper selling opportunities on this one. So hopefully you have taken note of that. But also remember the market can break to the downside of the conservative area. If that does happen, then at least we can try to see on the pullback whether we can get those conservative selling opportunities. So that's pretty much it for the CHF pairs. So right now we're going to move on to the USD pairs, and we're going to do the same, mix and match them up with everything on the buy side. So we're going to start off with the Australian dollar against the US dollar. So for this one, on Friday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. And you can see the three areas that I had mapped out. In the morning, price was here. We did want to see a breach to the upside and hopefully a pullback coming back in within here. Unfortunately, it's like the USDs were extremely weak. You know, the pullback was extremely shallow. We just couldn't get price coming back in within here. And you can see that the market continued rallying to the upside, just came back in for a proper pullback, retested this region right here during the Asian session. And you can see that the buyers are still attempting to push to the upside. So these are the three areas that we will be watching out for today. So we have the conservative at the top right there, semi-aggressive conservative region there. We do have the aggressive down within this area. So let's see if we can get the pullback coming in. If that doesn't end up happening, then at least we want to get the prices as close as possible within this region here. Price can come back in within that region as well. But in case that doesn't happen, we'll have to wait and see if we first can end up getting a breach to the upside, you know, a slowdown, price holding above this region, get that confirmation, watch out for the times, then I think it could be good time in terms of looking for the buying opportunities. So watch out for that. Also remember to trade with a stop loss and stick within your risk parameters at all times. In as much as we're here to show you setups, we're also here to promote good, smart, and responsible trading. So moving on into the next currency pair, this is the euro against the US dollar. So for this one, on Friday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities as well. So you can see the three areas that I have pointed out. So we're expecting also to get some sort of a pullback coming in on this one. Maybe back within here, that didn't happen, or maybe a breach of this region to the upside and hopefully a pullback. And just watching out for the times you could get a buy. So you can see that the breach happened. This was during the London session. Price pulled back in, attempted to come down lower, couldn't help. And you can see from 4 during the US session open, price did actually push itself off that region to the upside. So this one worked out pretty well on Friday. So let's see what happens today. So we've adjusted the levels, and these are the three areas that we will be trying to see whether we can get our trades in. Right now, we have some sort of a pullback coming in. Let's see if we can get this pullback coming in somewhere as close as possible within this region. And at least if that does end up happening, we could look for the buys. But there's also a minor scenario here that I can also end up pointing out, especially considering the fact that the market looks like it's in some sort of an upward trend. So, I mean, if you're really good at trading and you can end up watching out for the story, maybe on the 3-minute, you possibly could end up getting a very good buying opportunity within this region here. So just make sure that you also watch out for that. But you also really need to be a real sniper on the charts to get a proper risk to reward coming up, because that stop loss will need to be quite tight, because we're only looking at about 20 pips or thereabout. So, I mean, if you're good at trading or if you want to try things out, it's okay, as long as you stick within your risk. And also, I mean, that's the reason why at least you should also have a demo account so that you can, you know, practice before you put your hand and money on something. So make sure that you try that out if that does happen. But at least if we do get a proper pullback, that would also be pretty good in terms of, you know, giving us more risk to reward and range to the upside. So moving on into the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So for this one on Friday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities as well. So you can see the three areas, almost similar story with what we've seen on AUD USD and also Euro USD. So on this one, we're expecting the market either to pull back or maybe breach this region and hold to the upside. It broke, held within there, just slightly just tapped within that region. And you can see that at 4, the market moved to the upside. Maybe not as much or as well as the euro against the US dollar, but still something, because you can see that it did end up making a higher high. So for this one for today, these are the three areas we will be watching out for. We also do have the pullback coming back in on this one. Hopefully, if we do get the price just tapping back within this region properly, I think there could be some very good buying opportunities on this one, somewhere around here. So watch out for that. Watch out for the region at the top. When the market comes down here, and let's say you get buy, also make sure that you watch out, I guess, for this region here. Because the reason why I say that is because you can't see that the market tapped in within somewhere within this area here, went up, came down, and you can't see that it's holding within here. So there's a possibility this might also be some sort of a probe to the upside. So at least if you get the buys down here and the market comes in within here, just make sure that you're ready to manage. In case you get some issues, it's easy for the market to come to the downside. But at least if we do clear this region to the upside, then I think we should be good to go all the way till that region at the top. So hopefully you have taken note of that. So moving on into the next USD pair, this is the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. So for this one, on Friday, we were also trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas that I had pointed out, also an illustration of what to expect. Something almost similar to the rest of the USDs that we have seen. So it means that there was some very good correlation. So this one broke to the upside, came back. This came shy of this area here, but you can see, just like we've seen on the rest of the USDs, the market did actually make a move at around 4, which was during the New York session open. So for this one, for today, these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So let's see if we can get a pullback coming in. And see that the market went up, came down, tapped within this region during the Asian session, continued to move up higher. Right now it's back within this region. Hopefully we can get the market at least holding above this area here. Then I think we could potentially end up getting some very good buying opportunities, especially after these attempts, by the sellers to actually push the market to the downside. So let's wait and see if that does end up happening. In case that doesn't happen, then and the market comes back to the downside, there's a possibility we could get, the buys happening somewhere off this region here. So just make sure that you also do watch out for that, but also watch out for the region at the bottom. In case the market finds its way there, then that's going to be the last region where we will be attempting aggressive buying opportunities. So last but not least, for the USD pairs, we have the US dollar against the Japanese yen. So this is a new entrant on our watch list, and we will be trying to see whether we can get selling opportunities on this one. So these are the three areas that we have mapped out. Something similar to what we've seen on the Swiss franc against the Japanese yen. The market coming down, bouncing off a region of support. You can see that the buyers are just possibly getting ready to push the market to the upside. Let's see how far they can go, but I'm really hoping they do come in somewhere as close as possible within this area here. And we want to see, a weak pullback, because if the buyers do also end up coming in strong, then we'll definitely end up having a problem on our hands. So if the buyers do come in weak and hopefully the market slows down within this area, we see a sign of the big sellers showing up, then I think at that point in time, also looking at the times, we could potentially end up getting a very good selling opportunity to come down. So watch out for that. Also watch out for the region at the top. It's a bit of a long shot for price to get back in within that region. But remember, this being FX and the markets, anything is possible. Doesn't have to be something fundamental. Anything could happen. Trump could tweet something and you could just find the market reacting. So in case the market finds its way back there, then just make sure that you're also ready for that. So that's pretty much it for the USD pairs. So we're going to jump over to the card pairs now. Do the same, mix and match them up with everything on the buy side. So we'll start off with the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one on Friday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas right there that I had pointed out, and also the game plan of what to expect. So Friday morning, at a time like this, price was somewhere here. We're expecting the market to either break to the upside or come back in. So it broke to the upside. Unfortunately, there wasn't much within here to tell us to look for the buys, because you can see that the market broke and just continued moving up and grinding up very, very slow, came in within this region, also broke to the upside. And you can see that today, early in the morning, even after holding here, an attempt by the sellers to break to the downside, buyers came in, market pushed itself off this region, possibly could have been a good buy within there. The only problem is that when that did end up happening, I don't think any of us were on the charts, which is okay. So the market will definitely be giving other opportunities. So this is not the last opportunity in the world. We don't need to chase. But there's something similar with what we've seen on the Australian dollar against the US dollar, because, the market breaking, coming down, bouncing off there, and I think also on the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. So that tells us that there's definitely something to do with the AUDs, and the big boys are interested basically with buying the Australian dollar. So we should be as well. So for this one, it's high up there. Not really a good time to look for the buys. It's either the market either breaks above here and holds above, especially if we get a replica of this back within this region. And let's say the market first breaks to the upside, comes back in, attempts to break to the downside, continues to hold. That at least will tell us that the big boys are actually still interested in buying. So unless we get that, I don't think you should be looking for the buys now. Alternatively, we could get the pullback coming in, and I hope that we do get that pullback coming in, at least back within here. If we do get that, then I think we can try and see whether we can get some buying opportunities within here to move up, but also watch out for the region at the bottom right there. It's a bit of a long shot, but in case the market finds its way there, then at least we should be ready for that as well. So moving on into the next Canadian dollar pair, this is the euro against the Canadian dollar. So for this one on Friday, we're also trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas I had pointed out. So Friday morning price was here. We're expecting at least either the market to come back in within here, or maybe if the market breaks to the upside, and you can see that the big boys really showed up off this region here, and the market actually held to the upside of this SNR. And if you look at the times, you can see that at 4, that's when the market actually started to move to the upside, came back in within there, tapped within that region quite nicely. So for this one for today, the levels are the same. So at least there was a good buying opportunity during the US session on Friday. So let's see if we can get another buy on this one today. But right now you can see that the buyers have really stepped up from within this region here. They seem to be holding the sellers hostage of this region here. And you can see that the market is actually moving sideways. So hopefully if we can get them stepping in aggressively, because there's definitely a big fight that's going on between the buyers and the sellers. And it's the buyers who've stepped up within this region where we do have this big seller here. And that's a reason why we have the market actually moving sideways. So there's a real fight that's going on. But at least if we can get the buyers, stepping in, reaching this region to the upside, get a proper hold above there, we could potentially get some conservative buying opportunities there. But in case that doesn't end up happening, just giving the sellers the benefit of doubt within this region, we still could find the market and the price coming back in within this region. So let's wait and see what happens. And I really do hope that we get the pullback coming in. I think some proper buying opportunities could be somewhere off that region there. Also gives us more range and more risk to reward to the upside. So moving on into the next Canadian dollar pair. This is the Great British Pound against the Canadian dollar. So for this one on Friday, we're also trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. So you can see the three regions there that I have pointed out what the game plan was. Price was somewhere here on Friday. We're expecting price to tap back in within here, although this one was a very fast one. So price tapped in within here. If you look at the time, that was exactly 11 during the London market open. Price took off to the upside. And of course, it's these buyers who actually did justice. So that's the reason why we keep on pointing out the times. I know we sound like a broken record, but even if your timing is not really that great, but at least you're able to identify where the market is within, the times that we keep on repeating. 11, 3, 4:30. You increase the probability and the chances of your trades working out. It's not sure bet. But at least you do end up increasing the probability of your trades working out. So for this one for today, these are the three areas that we have mapped out. Let's see what happens. You can already see that the buyers have already started to show up, which is a good sign for us who are looking for buys. So let's see if we can get a slight pullback coming in, a hold within this region here. Also watching out for what happens within the times, as we approach the London market open at 11. Hopefully, if we do get the buy more within here, we could possibly end up getting a very good buy lifting off this region to the upside, possibly coming back in within this region here. In terms of looking for the buys, especially right now, chasing as the market is attempting to move to the upside, it might also end up being a bit risky, especially considering the fact that we have some sort of an SNR within here. You can see that the market broke to the upside, came back in, retested off this region, attempted to go up, came back in. And right now, if you look at where the sellers are holding the market, they're actually holding the market within this area. So we have a minus SNR there. If you hit the buy there, there's a possibility you could easily end up getting stopped out. And that's the reason why I'm pointing out that at least if we do get the pullback coming in, we always say buy with buyers and sell with sellers. So you want to be buying with the buyers who are at least somewhere within this region right here, so that even if the market comes in within this area and you do end up getting some sort of issues, at least at that point in time, your trade is actually going to be positive. So it's easier to manage your trades when they're positive rather than when they're negative. Alternatively, what we could end up waiting for, and of course, this one goes out to the snipers and guys who are very good at trading and know how to read the story of what's going on. If the market at least breaks above this region to the upside, then at least potentially, especially if we do get a breach of structure of the range, because you can clearly see that we're in a range. It's not very clear on the 15-minute time frame, but if you do go down a smaller time frame, the range even becomes even much bigger. So you can see that if you hit the buy there, you're completely off location. So you're better off getting the buy down here, or maybe we get a breach of structure to the upside of this area. And at least if you get the buys higher up within here, then that means that you also can end up tightening up your stop loss so that the risk to reward coming up does also end up making sense. In case you don't, then that trade might not actually end up being worth it. So hopefully you've taken note of that, but let's see, and it will be quite interesting to see how things end up unfolding on this one. But also remember the red SNR at the bottom. In case the market comes back in within that region, then at least we can still try and see whether we can get aggressive buying opportunities for as long as we do get an opportunity and the price is holding above that area to the upside. So moving on into the next currency pair, this is the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one on Friday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can't see the three areas I had pointed out, and also a game plan of what to expect. So Friday morning price was here, either price to come back in within this region or maybe breach to the upside and potentially end up giving us a good pullback and a retest of this region. But unfortunately, it's like the Canadian dollar was really getting hammered on this one. So the buyers showed up, and you can see that from there, the market just started moving to the upside, and that's what it did pretty much the whole of Friday. There wasn't much in terms of pullbacks. So it's only today during the Asian session that the market actually pulled back in, but it was also a quick pullback with some sort of a gap. And you can see that the market just tapped in within this area here. And after that, the buyers have continued to push the market to the upside. So I guess the Canadian dollar is really getting hammered. And I think also the New Zealand dollar pairs are also quite strong. So hopefully that does end up being the case for the remainder of the day, and we can get some very good buying opportunities on the New Zealand dollar pairs. But remember that the main thing is to always wait and see whether you can get some sort of a pullback. So like right now, the market has started to move to the upside. We had marked this level out with the team early in the morning. And of course, we're expecting maybe the market to start making a move during the London session or thereabout, but it seems that the market has already jumped ahead of us. So we won't be chasing, because I mean, if you hit the buy here, you can't see that the market has reacted off there before. You can't end up doing that again. So at least we will be waiting to see what happens. What type of reaction do we end up getting off that region? If we don't get a reaction and the market continues to rally up, we'll still have to end up waiting for the next pullback after that. So let's wait and see what happens on this one. Also watch out for these two regions at the bottom right here. It's a slim chance that price might come in within that area, especially considering how the Canadian dollar is really getting hammered, by the New Zealand dollar. But in case we do get that pullback coming in, then at least you should also be ready for that as well. So last but not least, we do have the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one, this is a new entrant on our watch list. We will be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities on this one. These are the three areas we will be watching out for. Something similar with what we've seen on the rest of the yen pairs, which is something good. It tells us that there's some very good correlation on the yen pairs. All of them have hit some sort of support regions. You can see the reactions coming in. Let's see if we can get the pullback coming in somewhere as close as possible. Of course, the best sells would be somewhere high up within this area here, but it's all dependent on if the Canadian dollar can at least end up getting some strength and give us a proper pullback. But there are also quite a number of SNRs within here. I mean, even if the market doesn't come back in all the way till this region at the top, at least even with this region right here, it's close enough within this area here, at least you still can get some good selling opportunities. But definitely you want to get your sales as close as possible within here and as far away as possible as this area right here. Unless we do break to the downside, then on the pullback, we can try and see whether we can get some sales. So hopefully you've taken note of that. And also that region at the top, in case the market finds its way there, then at least be ready for that and be aware that that's going to be the last area where we will be attempting our aggressive selling opportunities. So that's pretty much it in terms of all the currency pairs. So hopefully you've taken note of them. So we're going to move on to the indices and the commodities. You can see that there isn't much change on that front, in as much as there was a lot of movement, especially on silver and gold, which we will be looking at in a bit. So we'll start off with the NAS 100. So for this one on Friday, the bars was to try and see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. You can see the three areas that I had pointed out. And there was also this region right here that I had put right there because I had pointed out that maybe we could have found the market just pulling back in off this region here, come to the downside on the way up. Just make sure that you manage your trade within here. You can see that that level did actually end up giving a bit of an issue, but at least later on, the buyers were actually able to break above it, hold above that region. You can see that quick pullback to the downside before the market did actually end up moving to the upside. So for this one, for today, these are the three areas that we will be watching out for. So right now, the market is still moving up. Hopefully, we will get a pullback coming in. It seems like the Asian big boys are also interested in pushing this one up higher. So we'll be waiting to see whether we can get a proper pullback coming in on this one. So these are the three areas, and I'm really hoping, hopefully during the London session, we get some pullback coming in back within this region here. The market does set itself up properly, maybe at around 4:30, 5:30, we could find the market back within here for a proper buy to the upside. So watch out for that, but also watch out for the region at the bottom. For the indices and the commodities, remember, for as long as we're holding above the red SNR, the bus is always to look for buying opportunities. If it holds below the bus shifts, we end up looking for sells. If you do end up seeing counters, it's fine to take them, but bear in mind who is in control, of course, based on where the market is, either above or below the red SNR. So moving on into the next one, this is the US 30 or the Dow Jones. So for this one on Friday, the bus was to try and see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. So you can see the three areas I had pointed out. Friday morning price was somewhere here, but I pointed out that just in case the market does break above this region to the upside and actually hold above this region, then we could have looked for some buying opportunities. That was based, of course, on how the buyers had stepped up within this region here, but it seems that they really ran out of steam. They came into this region quite aggressively. Then after that, it's like they were completely shut down. Consider the market came back in within here, attempted to go to the upside, but the sellers have still continued to maintain their ground. So for this one, let's see what happens. Wasn't the clearest of opportunities in terms of sales, unless you're a real cowboy on the charts. Maybe when the market came down, pulled back in within this region here at around 5:30, some sort of an SNR there with those spikes and those weeks that were happening there, maybe reading that on a smaller time frame possibly could have been a sell coming down. But of course, we're expecting the market to make lower lows and lower highs. So this one is more or less maintaining. The levels are the same. Let's see what happens. Hopefully, we get the market at least breaching up beneath this region to the downside. Then at least we could try and see whether we could get some selling opportunities. But it's also dependent on if we can get the market actually holding beneath this region to the downside. You can see that it came down, then came back up, and it's more or less technically holding above that region to the upside. So be very careful, because you easily could find something like this or even this, because you can see that the market has attempted to break beneath here, but the buyers keep pushing the market to the upside. So if we can't get some proper sales there, then there's a possibility price might be on its way back up. Maybe the sellers looking for those proper prices, and you could find that the proper sales might actually happen off this region somewhere within there. So just make sure that you also do watch out for that. And of course, watch out for the times. I mean, the indices and the commodities, sometimes they don't really move much during the London session, but during the US session, if you do get them really moving, then I guess make sure that you end up maximizing on them. But also considering the fact that today is a holiday, if there isn't much movement, then I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens tomorrow. So moving on into the next one. So this is silver. So for silver, the buyers on Friday was to try to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas right there that I had pointed out. Friday morning price was here, and we're expecting maybe a pullback back within here, but the market first continued to rally up higher, then came back in. But unfortunately, when it came back in here, you can see that there was a spike there, attempted to move up higher, but it's like the buyers were completely taken out, and the sellers did actually end up having a field day, more or less, during the US session. And you can see that the market really pulled back quite aggressively, came down, even reached this region to the downside. The market came back in within this region, and this was today. I was really waiting to see what was going to happen, especially within this area here, because when the market broke to the downside, remember, it's always important to try and wait and see whether we can get a pullback and a hold. So the market came back in within there. Seems like right now the sellers are coming down, because early morning price was somewhere here. but I'm still not too convinced because we're more or less within a buyer's region. So for this one, we'll still end up maintaining to see what happens. We're in a catch-22 situation on this one. The levels are the same. The market seems to be doing the most in terms of breaking levels, coming back in within, the same regions, because you can see like for this one, price did end up going to the upside, came back in, broke to the downside, kind of came back in, but the levels were more or less within this area here. So that's the reason why we're still maintaining them. So right now, considering the fact that the market has broken to the downside, let's see if it does maintain. The only time we'll end up looking for the sells is once the pullback hopefully happens and the market comes back in within this area, and we do end up seeing that the market is actually maintaining beneath that region to the downside, then I think at that point in time, we will end up looking for the selling opportunities. But also remember that in case the market comes back within this region here and you get the market holding, within this area here to the upside, I think the buys will definitely still be on. So let's wait and see what does end up happening. But of course, a bit of a catch-22 situation. But I think also on the other hand, because you don't also want to end up attempting your buys and yourselves within this region, because this is more or less a region where you could easily end up getting taken for a ride. I think if the pullback doesn't happen all the way back within there, I think if we do breach this region to the downside and the pullback happens, I think at that point in time, we're safe to say that you can actually end up starting to look for those selling opportunities confidently. But within this region here, I think you need to be very careful because you could easily end up getting taken for a ride, either for buys or for sells. And it could end up being quite emotionally exhausting. So just make sure that at least try and get the trade either to the upside of the red SNR or beneath that blue SNR that I put in there. At least at that point in time, you could look for sells. So last but not least, we do have gold. So for gold, on Friday, the bus was to try to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can't see the three areas I had pointed out and also a fourth area somewhere within here. So Friday morning price was here. And I did point out that this was the high that gold had actually made, and it had come back in within this region. So there was a possibility the sellers within this area were going to react. I pointed out that you needed to be very careful with the buys that you're going to look for high up within there, because the buys were also quite obvious, considering the fact that gold has actually been going up for an extended period of time. Need challenging the high, of course, lots of speculation. Guys are saying that this thing was going all the way high up to 3,000. Definitely, everyone was looking for a buy there, and all hell did actually end up breaking loose. So it was either the market to break and hold above here, and hopefully see an attempt coming back down before we do jump in on the buys. The market broke and just sat on this scenario. And you can see sometimes when this happens, this ends up being a trap. Or else, the other option was if the market were to come back in within this region here, and you can see that the market came back in, attempted to hold to the upside, but we couldn't get a proper hold. So I guess this was the market coming down, broke to the downside, and actually held to the downside of this area, with some sort of a probe, sort of a retest within there. And if you do look at the time from around 5:30, that's when the market did actually end up starting to come to the downside. So the pullback came in quite heavy on this one. I think it's also a real shocker for all the guys who are looking for buys. A good number of them worldwide have definitely been stopped out. Let's see if the big boys wanted to incite people to start jumping in on sells, stopping out quite a number of people who are hitting buys. And hopefully when everyone forgets about the sell, maybe they will resume with their buys going up. So you can't see that the market came down, reached this region to the downside, pulled back in. Although this was during the Asian session, attempted to go down lower, but the market has come back up. So for this one, remember, for as long as we're holding above the red SNR, the bars should be to try to see whether we can get some buys. The sellers are coming in quite aggressive. Let's see if we can get at least a slowdown of them within this region right here. If that does happen and we do see a sign of the bars showing up, I think we could be good to go in terms of buying opportunities. So watch out for that. Remember, if you do get the buys here, you definitely will need to manage your trade within this region and also somewhere within there. But on the other hand, let's say if the market breaks beneath this region to the downside and we do get the market attempting to break above here and that ends up being unsuccessful, I think we can start to look for selling opportunities at that point in time more confidently. So it's all about the story. It's all about what does end up happening. Remember, when it comes to trading, and that's the reason why we always have options. It's a matter of if the market does this, then I will do this. It's never trying to impose your opinions and what you're thinking about the charts. It's always good to end up having quite a number of plans. So we have plan A, plan B, plan C. In case the market does end up, depending on how it ends up playing out, if it doesn't end up playing out like we want to see, then it's also fine for us to actually end up falling back on looking for those opportunities. So hopefully you have taken note of that and everything else we've discussed. For the sake of guys who may have joined us late, this is what the watch list is going to be looking like. But at least you also do have the provision, of rewatching this broadcast again, going fast, slow, skipping bits and pieces, depending on what you want. And also in case something is not clear, at least you can go back to it quite a number of times over and over again. So remember to also like and subscribe. That does also end up helping out our channel. In terms of the chat box, I'm not really seeing any questions on my end. So I guess everything is perfectly clear. And hopefully we will end up seeing you guys tomorrow. Remember, if you get any trades, whether good or bad, feel free to send them in to us. Our contact details are right there in the chat box. And also feel free to reach out to us with the same contact details. And at least we will see how best we can end up helping you. So I guess we'll see you guys tomorrow. So with that, happy trading, guys. Bye for now. May the pips be with you. God bless.